So, do people actually care? Do people give a damn that students are still fighting for free education?
Have you become desensitized?
Well, I mean, it's unclear because, social media speaks in silos. But however, we all need to care about the future of human capital in this country. Yeah. In Germany they have a saying that one graduate creates 3 more jobs downstream. So besides that, every employed graduate pays way more in taxes than somebody who has to be on social welfare. We have a decision to make in this country. Do we create jobs and therefore develop the human capital that does so? Or do we continue to resign people back to the townships where they came from, back to the economic exclusion that they were trying to escape out of? So when we look at student frustrations, it's very easy to fall into the sensational elements of student protests. A burnt vase here, a broken window over there, and to fail to look at the underlying systemic drivers of student frustration and anger. Sure, for every 2,000 students protesting, there will be 100 who will go beyond the extreme. That 100 must be castigated and told to stop extremist behavior. But the 1,900 are also making a very, very important point. They want to participate in the economy. They want to be doctors, engineers, scientists. They want to contribute and create those jobs that Cyril Ramaphosa was talking about. However, when you look at the budget speech, there wasn't an increased allocation for students in respect to accommodation funding, in respect to TVET funding, in respect to tuition funding, from an administration that promised students that they would provide them with free education. So there are real concerns here, and we mustn't fall into one silo of Twitter, which is flippant, which says, look at these failing students who are burning buildings, they must be dealt with. That is the wrong analysis, I would submit, to South Africa.
Would you think the same?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to also perhaps just off the back of what Jamie said about the difference between disruptive behavior and violent behavior. Mcebo, what are your thoughts about, are we desensitized to the Fees Must Fall movement? Do you think we've kind of taken a back seat a bit? What's happening?
Well, look, people get tired of a ritual. The problems are the same. The problems are the same problems that we fought for. It's the same problems that we found. Because even ourselves as student leaders, we were not fighting our own battles. We were still fighting the old. It's unfortunate that we left university and left those who were following us to still fight the same battles. So now the problem probably is not necessarily with government, but it is with the universities themselves. You can't separate teaching and learning with accommodation. If you are offering a degree in engineering, you must know where those engineers will stay. Rather include the accommodation that you have provided in the tuition. You can't be coming from Ghana, having applied to study at UJ, but UJ doesn't have a place to stay. So that's where the problem is. You want to separate teaching and learning and accommodation. That's one thing. If you go to Chris Baragwanath Hospital, they must provide beds. You can't be sleeping in a back room and go to get injection in Bara. It doesn't make sense. So that's where the problem is. But when it comes to the violence, protests by their nature are disruptive. And when people are in a group, they do, go berserk. But we are not condoning violence.
Let's take a look at what Adam Abebe said. He was with our colleague Kathy Motlatlana, of course, earlier on in the week, and he spoke about his resignation and perhaps attributed some of the reasons to this Fees Must Fall protest. Let's take a listen.
I think politics is important for young people at universities, but I think student politics should be principled. It should be about the fundamental issues of society, not carrying the ideological dogma of different political parties and becoming subject to party political fights like we see in Parliament every day now. That is what worries me. And it seems to me that what has happened post 2016, 2017 is a whole series of Fees Must Fall leaders on all sides suddenly got jobs in Parliament. And so you suddenly are a student leader one day, and you then pop up in Parliament and earn 1.2 or 1.3 million.
Sure.
And while it might be useful from the from the agenda of the political party, and even from the individual. You've created an incentive structure of creating distraction and then getting rewarded for it.
I think
your comment.
Yeah, I have.
Look, I think Adam is delusional. And he continues to embarrass himself every time he appears in the public. And as a political analyst himself, he should understand human behavior and student behavior in general. Because he's a political analyst. Sociology, for that matter. Why people behave the way they do and why others don't behave the way they do. There is no institution of leadership in South Africa. There's no university where leaders are being taught. The universities is a space where we contest ideas and leaders must be produced in that space. He can't then say, he should be proud that WITS has produced leaders who are in parliament. But because he continues to be a clown, that doesn't know the purpose of the institution that he leads. At universities, you produce leaders of the country. The student leaders, fees must fall, has not only disrupted white privilege, but it has produced leaders for this country. They are in parliament. We should be celebrating that. Because when before fees must fall, young people had went to slumber. There was no activism. Young people had given up. Young people had thought we had arrived. Fees must fall reminded them that you are not free. You are free from what? So I have a problem with him also to clap the genuine fight of young people, the pain, and associate it with political parties. Fees Must Fall was not led by any political party. We affiliated, but we were bound together by the pain and the suffocation, and we couldn't take it anymore.
Jamie, what are your thoughts? I mean, you've also on Twitter this week, echoing your sentiments and your experience during university.
For sure. So, number one, as an activist, I think we should put this clip on YouTube. So whoever is in charge of that, because I think it's an important conversation, and I'm about to offer some important rebuttal to Adam Abebe. Number one, there was a principle that united all students and continues to unite all students. That principle is that education should be accessible to all. In order to create an equitable society, you need to have certain barriers of entry removed from equalizers to the economy. One of those equalizers is a tertiary education. It is the quickest way to improve the income of a household if somebody has a graduate degree.